Mayamael invited me to a fancy restaurant. The chef took me to a separate room and said, "Leave quickly."
I still remember that evening like it happened yesterday. It wasn't anything special at first, just another normal week. I had been wrapped up in work, trying to juggle deadlines and life, thinking of nothing more than getting home and relaxing. My life had this rhythm, this steady hum. I had learned to live in a way that made things predictable, comfortable, even safe. But that night, everything broke apart. I was sitting at home when my phone buzzed. It was my mother-in-law. Her voice was warm, but there was something I couldn't place. A weight underneath it, like a quiet urgency. She invited me to dinner. Not just any dinner, but at one of the most expensive, elegant restaurants in town. I was surprised because we hadn't had a proper meal together in a long time. I thought it would be a nice evening, a chance to connect. I said yes without hesitation. I didn't suspect that this dinner would change everything. The night felt ordinary at first. I got ready like I always did. My hair brushed, soft makeup, wearing something I thought was elegant but simple. My heart wasn't racing, but there was a faint sense of curiosity. My mother-in-law picked me up and we drove through the city. The streets glistened under warm lights, the air cool with a touch of autumn. I chatted with her, tried to keep things light, but she was quieter than usual. That silence was the first sign something was different. When we arrived, the restaurant was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers sparkled, and soft music flowed like a gentle wave. Waiters moved gracefully, smiling politely at guests. The smell of freshly cooked food filled the air. I tried to settle in, telling myself this was just another family dinner. My mother-in-law smiled at me, but there was something guarded in her eyes, something she wasn't saying. We were seated at a corner table, away from most of the crowd. The conversation on began small talk, laughter, compliments. But then, something shifted. The laughter faded. I noticed the chef leaving the kitchen. It wasn't unusual, except he didn't walk through the main entrance. He moved quietly, almost like a shadow, and he was staring at me. His gaze was intense, almost alarming. Without warning, he walked toward me. No greeting, no explanation. He motioned for me to follow him. My heart tightened. I looked at my mother-in-law. She didn't react the way I expected. No confusion, no alarm, just calm acceptance. The chef reached my side, and without a word, led me through a small corridor away from the restaurant's lights, laughter, and warmth. The hallway was narrow and dimly lit. My shoes clicked softly against the floor, but the sound felt loud, echoing in the silence. I kept glancing back, expecting someone to follow or call me, but there was nothing. When we stopped, he looked at me with a strange urgency and whispered, "Leave quickly. Don't make a scene." I froze. My mind scrambled. What did he mean? Why was this happening? But before I could ask, he was gone. I turned, and my mother-in-law was standing there, watching me with something unreadable in her eyes. A tension filled the air, the kind you can't ignore. My breath grew shallow, my stomach twisting with unease. I followed her back to the table, but the moment was gone. Conversation resumed, but everything felt sharper. The laughter seemed forced, the clinking of silverware too loud. My mind replayed the moment in the hallway again and again. My mother-in-law kept glancing at me, speaking softly to someone at the other end of the table, her tone quiet but urgent. Then a door opened behind us. A staff member came out and whispered something to her. The expression on her face shifted instantly. Smiling turned to unease, politeness to tension. Her eyes met mine for just a second too long, and I felt a chill creep down my spine. I wanted to leave. I wanted to walk out and never look back. But something kept me there, holding me in place. The night was far from over, and I had a strange feeling that whatever was coming was something I couldn't avoid. And then, my mother-in-law stood. She didn't say a word, just nodded toward the small corridor. Her look told me everything. "Come with me," she said softly. My heart was pounding harder now. I rose slowly, feeling every eye in the restaurant on me. My breath caught in my throat. Something in her tone told me this wasn't just a dinner anymore. This was the start of something I wasn't ready for, but couldn't walk away from. We moved down the hallway together. Every step pulled me deeper into a reality I wasn't prepared for. The world I thought I knew was breaking apart right in front of me, and I had no idea what I was walking into. The hallway felt colder than the restaurant, as if we'd stepped into another world. The laughter, music, and chatter behind us were replaced by silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. My shoes made soft clicks with every step, but the sound seemed swallowed by the shadows around us. My mind was racing 1,000 miles an hour. Why was my mother-in-law leading me here? Why the hush, the urgency? My heart beat faster with every step. I wanted to ask, but the words felt trapped in my throat. The air smelled faintly of something I couldn't place. Metal, smoke, something sharp and strange. I tried to steady my breathing, but my body was trembling. I couldn't even tell if it was fear or instinct. She stopped at a small door at the end of the hall. It wasn't marked. No sign, no light, just plain wood, almost hidden in the shadows. She glanced over her shoulder once before pushing it open. I stepped forward hesitantly, my stomach twisting. The moment we crossed the threshold, it was like stepping into a completely different place. The room was dim, lit by a single light bulb that cast harsh shadows on cracked walls. The smell was straw, here, iron, something burnt. My eyes adjusted slowly, and I noticed the chef standing there again. His expression wasn't friendly. It was grave, almost desperate. Before I could speak, my mother-in-law came closer. Her voice was low and urgent. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly, her eyes avoiding mine. "But it's too late now." I blinked, confused. What did she mean? Too late for what? The chef stepped forward, his movements careful, almost protective. He looked directly at me. "You need to leave," he said quietly, almost a whisper. "Now." His eyes held something fierce. Fear, warning, maybe even guilt. I wanted to ask why. I wanted answers. But before I could speak, my mother-in-law grabbed my arm. Her grip was firm, pulling me deeper into the room. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with tension. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. And then I saw it. In the corner of the room, hidden in shadow, was something I wasn't supposed to see. Something that made my chest tighten, my breath catch. There were boxes, stacked haphazardly, but in them were documents, photographs, evidence. I could see faces, names, numbers. Things that shouldn't be hidden. Things that screamed of secrecy. My mother-in-law's eyes met mine again. There was a silent warning there, but something in her expression told me she had chosen this moment. She wasn't pulling me away to protect me. She was pulling me into something I was never meant to witness. My heart felt like it would explode. Fear, anger, confusion, it all collided inside me. I wanted to turn and leave, but my feet felt frozen. My mind was screaming at me to run, but I couldn't. Not when I knew this was a moment I couldn't escape. The chef stepped closer, his voice trembling. "Don't tell anyone," he said. "If they find out you were here." He didn't finish, but I understood the threat. And then my mother-in-law said something that made the air freeze. "There's no going back now." I wanted to ask her why. I wanted to demand answers, but something told me she wouldn't give them. I was standing in the middle of something I didn't understand, and I realized my life had just changed forever. The restaurant, the invitation, the quiet urgency, it wasn't random. It was deliberate. And whatever was hidden here was bigger than me, bigger than her, bigger than anything I could imagine. My breath came in short bursts. My hands shook. My mind raced through every possible explanation, but none of them made sense. And then the chef turned away. My mother-in-law stepped closer. Her voice was almost a whisper. "We have to go. Now." We walked back through the corridor in silence. The world outside that small room felt distant, unreal. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stepped into something dangerous, something that could cost me more than I could ever pay for. When we finally returned to the table, the restaurant felt different. The laughter was too loud, too forced. The clinking of cutlery was sharper, harsher. My mother-in-law didn't smile at me again. She just nodded slightly, as if something unspoken had passed between us. I sat there in silence, my mind replaying everything. My hands fidgeted under the table, my heart pounding with questions I didn't dare voice. I wanted to believe this was all just some strange misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. Something had been revealed to me that night, something I couldn't unsee, and I knew, without a doubt, that I would never forget it. The rest of the night was a blur. I tried to eat, but every bite felt tasteless. The laughter, the chatter, the clinking of glasses. It all sounded muffled now, as if I was hearing it through water. My mind was still in that hidden room. The smell, the darkness, the way my mother-in-law looked at me. I couldn't shake it. My fingers kept fidgeting under the table, tapping against the linen napkin as if trying to hold myself together. I kept stealing glances at he. She avoided my eyes completely. Her smile was gone, her posture stiff. There was something weighing her down, a kind of guilt that I couldn't name yet. But I knew it was there. I could feel it. When the meal ended, she stood abruptly. I didn't even have time to put down my fork before she leaned in and whispered, "We need to leave now. They're watching." Her voice was almost trembling. My stomach twisted. Watching? Who was watching? What was going on? We left the restaurant quietly, stepping out into the cool night air. The city felt alive, the streetlights casting golden halos over the sidewalk. But for me, it was different now. Everything felt sharper, heavier, like the world had shifted slightly, and I had stumbled into something I couldn't understand. She led me to a car waiting across the street. No words, just movement. I slid into the back seat, my mind still spinning. I wanted to ask her what was happening, but the words caught in my throat. There was fear in her face, but also determination. Something told me she wasn't going to tell me everything. The car drove in silence. The streets blurred past. My heart pounded louder than the engine. I kept replaying the moment in that hidden room. Those boxes, those documents, the way the chef had looked at me. What had I seen? What was she hiding? Finally, she spoke. Her voice low, almost breaking. Alice, you don't know what you've stepped into. Her words landed like stones in my chest. I wanted to tell her to stop, to explain, but the words came out as a whisper. What do you mean? She shook her head, staring out the window. It's not safe. For you. For me. For everyone involved. I felt panic rise inside me. Safe? What's going on? Why did the chef... I stopped myself. The fear in her eyes silenced me. Whatever this was, it was bigger than us. We pulled up to an old building, somewhere I didn't recognize. The car, topped. She turned to me. Her expression was grave. You have to promise me something, she said. Whatever you think you saw tonight, never speak of it. Not to anyone. I stared at her. My chest tightened. I wanted answers. I wanted to scream, to demand the truth. But something in her voice made me pause. It wasn't just a request. It was a warning. I nodded slowly, but deep inside, I knew I couldn't keep silent. She opened the car door, stepping out quickly. I followed, my mind racing. The building loomed before us, dark and foreboding. Its windows were cracked, the paint peeling. It looked abandoned, but the way she moved toward it told me it was not. Inside, the air was heavy, filled with dust and something else I couldn't name. It smelled like old paper and secrets. She led me down a narrow hallway, the walls closing in. Every step echoed. We entered a room at the end. It was filled with people, men and women, faces I didn't recognize, sitting around a table with papers scattered everywhere. They looked up as we entered. My breath caught. There was tension in the air so thick I could taste it. My mother-in-law didn't say a word. She just gestured for me to stand beside her. One of the men, older, with sharp eyes, stared at me like I was an intruder in a world I shouldn't exist in. Finally, my mother-in-law spoke. Alec, you've seen too much. There's no turning back now. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. This was no longer just a strange night at a restaurant. This was something dangerous, something I had stumbled into by accident, or maybe not by accident at all. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just in the middle of a mystery anymore. I was part of it. The air seemed to shift, heavy with unspoken threats. I wanted to run, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. Whatever was about to happen, I knew it was going to change my life forever. The air in that room felt heavy, almost suffocating. I couldn't breathe normally, my chest tightening with every step I took. I looked around, men and women sitting at the tab, their eyes locked on me like I was some kind of evidence. Papers, photographs, and strange-looking files were scattered across the wooden surface. The smell of old ink and something metallic filled the air. I wanted to speak, to ask what was going on, but my voice refused to obey me. My mother-in-law stood close beside me, her hand brushing lightly against my shoulder. Not comforting, but warning me. The older man with sharp eyes stepped forward. His face was stern, unshaken, but his gaze was intense. He didn't say anything at first. He just studied me, and I could feel it, like I was under a microscope, every movement, every breath examined. Then he spoke, his voice low, deliberate. You were not supposed to see this. You have no idea what's at stake. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. What do you mean? What is this place? He didn't answer. Instead, another woman at the table looked up, her face tired, her eyes filled with worry. She said nothing, but her expression said enough. something dangerous, something I wasn't meant to know. I felt my knees weaken, my hands trembled. My heart was pounding so loud I was certain everyone could hear it. The weight of the silence was crushing. I kept glancing at my mother-in-law, searching for answers in her face, but she kept her gaze fixed on the floor. Then she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "They don't want the truth to come out." The words hit me like a blow. Truth. What truth? My mind raced. What had I walked into? My stomach churned. I thought about the hidden room, the boxes, the way the chef had spoken to me, and the look in his eyes. Now, everything was coming together in a terrifying puzzle. The older man leaned forward. "Alec, you need to understand. What you saw tonight is not just a mistake. It's a secret they've buried for years. And if it gets out..." His voice trailed off, but I felt the threat. It wasn't subtle. Suddenly, a loud noise came from somewhere deep in the building. A thud, then footsteps. Everyone froze. My breath caught. My body felt like stone. My mother-in-law's hand tightened around mine. "They know you're here," she whispered. "We have no time." Before I could ask what she meant, she pulled me toward a small side door. My heart was pounding faster than ever. My mind screamed for answers, but the fear kept my mouth shut. We stepped into a dark corridor. The walls closed in. Every step echoed loudly, the sound bouncing off into nothing. Behind us, the noise grew louder. Footsteps. Faster now. I knew someone was coming. My legs felt heavy, but we kept moving. My breath was ragged. My ears burned from the tension. We reached another door, and she shoved it open. A cold rush of air hit me, and we stepped into what looked like an empty basement. Concrete walls, a faint smell of dampness, and shadows stretching into the darkness. My pulse was thunder in my ears. Then I heard her voice again, shaky, urgent. "Alec, I need you to promise, no matter what happens, you can't speak about tonight." I nodded, but I wasn't sure if it was out of agreement or fear. I didn't know what she was hiding. But deep inside, I knew one thing. I couldn't keep silent. Suddenly, a voice echoed down the hall. A deep, commanding voice. "Stop right there." My heart leapt into my throat. The footsteps were closer now, faster. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and sharp. We froze. My mother-in-law pulled me behind a stack of crates. I could hear them coming. My hands were clammy, my breathing uneven. Everything in me wanted to run, to scream, to escape this nightmare. But I knew, whatever happened next, there was no turning back. And in that moment, I realized this was it. The moment that would change everything. My breath felt loud in my own ears, and my body was frozen. Every muscle screamed to run, but my legs refused. The footsteps were coming closer, heavy, deliberate, echoing through the concrete corridor like a warning. My mother-in-law held her breath, her hand gripping mine so tightly it hurt. The voice came again, this time closer, sharper. I said, "Stop." It was no longer a warning. It was an order. Suddenly, a flashlight beam cut across the dark hallway. It landed right on us. My eyes burned from the light. I blinked. My mind felt numb. I could feel my heart pounding, my chest rising and falling in ragged gasps. Two figures appeared, uniformed, serious, moving toward us without hesitation. The sound of their boots hitting the floor was deafening. I realized then that whatever was happening was far bigger than I had imagined. My mother-in-law pulled me back behind the crates, shielding me with her body. Her voice was trembling as she whispered, "Alec, listen to me. I've tried to keep you safe. But they'll stop at nothing. You have to go." "Go?" My voice was barely audible. "Where? I don't even know what's happening." She shook her head violently, her eyes filled with desperation. "Just go, before it's too late." My mind raced. Go? Leave? But I didn't understand what danger we were in. Yet I could feel it. The way those men moved, the urgency, the authority, they were hunting us. The flashlight beam swung closer. My breath caught in my throat. My mother-in-law pulled me harder. "Now!" We bolted. Adrenaline surged through my veins. My feet pounded against the concrete floor, my heart hammering like a drum. The sounds behind us grew louder. Shouts, heavy boots, footsteps chasing us down that dark hallway. We burst through another door into what looked like an abandoned storage room. My lungs burned, my legs trembled, but we kept running. I could hear them gaining on us. My mind screamed for an escape. We stumbled into another corridor, narrower, darker, the air thick with dust and fear. My mother-in-law whispered urgently, "Alec, when you leave here, never tell anyone what happened. Ever. Promise. Me." I nodded, though I wanted to scream at her for answers. But I knew she was terrified. Terrified for me. We reached an emergency exit. She opened it and shoved me out into the night. The cool air hit my face. I gasped. She pulled me into the shadows, pressing her hand over my mouth. The footsteps stopped behind us. A voice said sharply, "Search her." I froze. My chest felt like it was collapsing. My mother-in-law pulled me away into darkness. "Run!" she hissed. I ran without looking back, my mind a storm of fear and confusion. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing. Whatever I had walked into tonight was dangerous. Dangerous enough that it could cost my life if I stayed. I kept running until the noise disappeared, until the night swallowed me whole. My legs gave way, and I collapsed on the sidewalk. My chest heaved. I was shaking, exhausted, terrified. But I knew I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. That hidden room, those papers, the fear in her eyes. I had glimpsed something no one wanted the world to know. I made it home that night, but I wasn't the same. The fear, the tension, the questions, it stayed with me. And my mother-in-law's warning echoed in my mind. She made me promise silence. But how could I? How could I stay quiet when I knew there was something buried in that restaurant, something powerful, something dangerous? This wasn't just one night. This wasn't just one story. It was bigger, much bigger. And I knew, deep inside, I couldn't turn away. The question is, how far would you go to uncover the truth?